Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today I have a very exciting video that I literally have been planning making for months and months and months. But I always put it off because it just this is a topic, as you can tell from the thumbnail and the title, that is the number one thing I'm looking for in a romance novel. And so the books I'm talking about are the ones that are probably the most near and dear to my heart, the ones that I feel the most strongly about, the ones that I connect to the most powerfully. And it just seemed like a lot of pressure to put a list together for the books, to narrow it down, because I did have a lot of books that I wanted to put on here, but I narrowed it down to 8 books. So this video is all about the books that make me believe in soulmates and make me believe in love. These books are the romances that have felt so powerfully real to me that this couple had a not just a romantic connection, but had a true soulmate level connection. They felt like they were two parts of one soul that just finally made it together. I love this concept so much. And the thing that I find interesting in the books that I selected in here is that they are almost all either spanning great amounts of time, maybe even a lifetime, or they're a second chance romance, or they have some really heavy things that they go through, or all of those in there, So things that are, so I guess you could say that this list are the top tier romance books for me personally, books that have things that I'm always looking for, that I want in a romance. So with that very long introduction, I also want to quickly say that this is a collaboration video that I am doing with my dear friend Tiffany from Tiff Talks Pages. She is a new booktuber, although she has been on Instagram for quite a while, and her stories were always so fun as she talked about the books she was reading. But I asked her if she wanted to also film this video, so be sure to check out her channel and video about the books that she make her believe in love and soulmates. So, alright, let's go ahead and get started. So the first book on my list, if you've been watching for a while, this is not going to come as any surprise, but it is Still by Kennedy Ryan. This is the number one book that I think of when I think of a book that makes me believe in love, that love is real, that love exists, that love can conquer all, and it is Bristol and Grip. This book by Kennedy Ryan, I read this over a year ago, and it has never left my head for a second. This book lives rent-free, this series, but especially this book, rent-free in my head. For all time. It is my all-time favorite book, my all-time favorite romance. It is deeply emotional and very, very powerful. Bristol and Grip go through so much together. They meet very young in the prequel novella, Flow. They meet very young, they're just young adults. Grip is a rapper, Bristol is his friend, a musician friend, his sister, who then becomes Grip's manager. And it's an interracial romance, and it is really about these two who have this powerful connection right in the beginning. Flow is a beautiful book in that it shows how they meet and the sparks that they feel, and how powerful that first meeting with someone who you know is meant to be your person can really be. And then we have Grip, and then this is the conclusion, Still. Still is powerful for me personally on a lot of levels, but specifically because of everything that this couple had to overcome, for how Grip stands by Bristol no matter what, and how Bristol does that for him as well. There is such a powerful moment in here regarding something that happens with their family after they're married, when Bristol really falls into a deep depression from a loss that she is grieving. They're both grieving. The way that Grip comforts her, and not only just comforts her, but is there for her and is by her side no matter what. I can think of another book, which, if you know, was one of my worst books of the year, tackled that topic similarly, but it broke that couple apart. It resulted in cheating. And I think that says a lot about the traumatic experience of, trigger warning and spoiler, of losing a child can do to a couple. But in this book, we get to see that even though Grip is grieving, and Bristol is too, he never, ever, ever thinks about leaving her side or abandoning her or thinking about his needs. All of his thoughts are focused on Bristol. It's a thing of beauty. The wedding vows in this book, they get married finally. Grip writes them. He's a rapper, a poet. He writes them for Bristol. I bought them from Kennedy's site to have in my house because they are absolutely beautiful. The words that he says, the way he expresses how he loves her, I will never get over this couple or this book. This is a perfect romance in my opinion. I love it so much. And if you haven't read this book in the series, please do. You do have to read these in order. This is a series where you have to read Flow and then Grip and then Still. But if you haven't, if you've been waiting to read this, like, please read it. It is very emotionally heavy. Like I said, definitely has trigger warnings for things that are very emotional that a real couple would go through. No cheating, however. None. Not my Grip. So, this book for me. Now, the next book that I have to talk about is a historical romance, and it is The Day of the Duchess by Sarah MacLean. So this book is interesting as to why it made it on my list, because I feel like this book does something that is usually, never will I ever read that, you know? This book has a hero who cheats on the heroine. It's mentioned, it's not graphically depicted, it's off page, but you know that that's happening. This is about the Duke of Haven and Seraphina, and they meet when they're very young, and the Duke of Haven, like, he has such powerful feelings for Seraphina right from the beginning. They're so deeply in love. They just have this electric connection. But things are revealed where he is led to believe that she actually doesn't love him, that she was just basically trying to marry him for his title. And it just devastates him, it completely wrecks him. And that's sort of what starts his downward spiral and leads to him cheating on her and eventually ends up to them sort of separating and on the near brink of complete disaster in their relationship. They separate, she leaves, and things aren't going well. But as he is the Duke and it is his requirement to have an heir, he realizes he needs to do that, but in his heart, he wants Seraphina. That's who he wants for his wife. So he tries to contact her, he does contact her, and he proposes that if she finds a replacement wife for him, he will give her a divorce. Now, Seraphina has never stopped loving the Duke of Haven. She loves him. This is a story for me where it felt like so much miscommunication was happening, and I know that can be a deal breaker for a lot of people, but it worked for me here because I could completely see how the level of hurt or the pain that was very specific to each other when it was thought that that was what was happening, I could see how that would lead to a little bit of pride and tearing them apart and really just destroying that relationship, almost destroying it. Of course, as they're working together, they start to sort of mend the brokenness that was between them, and they realize that they are deeply, deeply in love. And this book has what I consider to be one of the best grand gestures that I have ever read about, because it is entirely selfless on the hero's part. I think a lot of times when we read about grand gestures, they can come across as just a teensy bit selfish, right? Because sometimes it's about the hero wanting to show, like, how much that he cares about her in a way that makes him feel better about himself, right? He has something to gain from that. The grand gesture that the Duke of Haven does in this book is 100% selfless, and it is going against everything that he wants, and that's why it worked for me so well. This is an extremely angsty book. It is beautifully written. In my opinion, I think this is Sarah MacLean's best work. It just makes me believe in love and conquering all, because these two, some of the things that happened to them was their own stupid fault. Most of it was, right? Miscommunication, making bad choices, but their love is what held strong and brought them back together, and I just freaking loved it so much. Marriage in Trouble, second chance romance, fantastic. Okay, the next book that is on my list is Wolfsong by T.J. Klune. When I read this book for the first time, I was not prepared for how emotional it was going to make me. I had no idea I was going to fall in love with these characters as much as I did. I was obsessed with this world. I was obsessed with these characters. T.J. Klune does such an excellent job of creating characters that are flawed and that are also very vulnerable, but that are also really, really strong. And he has this magical way of writing love stories this is an MM romance between his characters that is just so completely believable that you just can feel that these two are in love, they are meant to be together, they are soulmates. This follows Ox. We open the book when he's 12 years old. This spans a long time, right? He doesn't end up actually meeting his love interest until he's 16 or 17, but you get to see a little bit of Ox's life in the beginning, and he has a very abusive father who ends up leaving him, and he's really, really struggling with the aftermath of the abuse his father left him with. He has a great relationship with his mom, but he is just such a vulnerable, sweet boy, and my heart just broke for him. So when he's about 16 or 17, a new family moves into town, and they're werewolves, and he doesn't learn that for a while, but he knows there's something different about them. He ends up meeting Joe, the youngest son of that family, and I believe there's a bit of an age gap there. Joe, I think, is like 11. Ox is 16 when they meet, I think. And that first meeting they have, you can tell that, like, it's not a romantic type of meeting when they're that young, but it's this connection that they have where it's like similar souls, where they just feel like they were meant to meet and have this connection in life. It's so freaking beautiful. It goes on throughout their lives. They both grow up. They see a lot of death and sadness and some really heartbreaking things that happen. Things that might tear them apart. But their love survives. And I love that so much. Like, that's something that I dearly love, is seeing a couple really get hit with some hard things in life and having that love remain, like, steadfast no matter what, you know? Even if at times maybe they question it, or at times maybe they're doubting if they're going to be able to make it through. But seeing that they actually do just reaffirms to me the idea that love conquers all. And it's unstoppable. When two people are determined to be together and to love each other, nothing is going to stop it. And I just love it so much. So this is one of my favorite books of all time. All of these books are some of my favorite books of all time. But if you have not read this book yet, I want you to read it. This is me saying, please read this book, okay? Okay, the next book that I have is a historical romance. And it is, again, The Magic by Lisa Kleypas. So this was actually the book that I read that made me completely obsessed with Lisa Kleypas. I read this book 2 years ago, and I was not prepared for how much this book would make me feel. This is about Lady Aline, who, you know, she's a lady. This actually has parts. This is a prequel to The Wallflower, so we get to see Marcus in here. He's Aline's brother. She is passionately in love with a stable boy, basically, a servant boy in their home. His name is McKenna, and he dearly loves her too. They have a few meetings that are innocent in the beginning that are sort of kept secret because she knows that if her father finds out, things are going to be really bad for McKenna. And she wants to progress things further. She wants to be physically intimate with McKenna, and he continuously is like, no, I can't ruin you, I'm not for you, but at the same time, his heart is just drawing him towards Aline so strongly and powerfully. So eventually they do succumb as young love, and Aline's father finds out about it. And he threatens to just completely decimate McKenna's future. So Aline makes a deal with her dad that if she can convince McKenna to leave, to not be a part of her life, that her dad won't interfere in his life. And so her dad agrees. She ends up completely pushing McKenna away, basically white-fanging him, which is, you know, pushing somebody away for their own good. That's my term that I use. That happens a lot in romance novels. She ends up convincing him that she didn't actually feel anything for him and that she doesn't want him anymore. His heart is broken. He leaves. He goes to America. He becomes a self-made man, a very wealthy man, a very powerful man. Years pass. Something terrible happens to Aline. McKenna doesn't know. He returns to get revenge on her, he believes. But he can't stop the feelings that he has for her. Even when he's hurt, he's believed for years that she didn't want him, that she pushed him away because she didn't want him, that he wasn't good enough for her. He can't deny the way he feels about her. This book is so angsty, and I adored it. But the thing that I love the very most is when McKenna finally finds out what Aline has been hiding. Like, the way that he just completely opens up and lets himself love her and, like, unleashes this powerful love he's had for her, like, ugh. It was a thing of beauty. I love this book so much. I think this is a fantastic Lisa Kleypas novel if you haven't read it. Highly recommend it. I realized that I didn't talk about this in my Wallflower review video that I have, but I read this before I read the Wallflowers. It's fantastic. Makes me believe in love. Okay, the next book that I have to recommend, or that I want to talk about, is Ivan by Sophie Lark. So, this book really surprised me. I feel like in general, Sophie Lark does a really excellent job of holding together all of those elements in a dark romance that just work flawlessly for me, that don't feel over the top, that don't feel overly dramatic, like they feel like just the right amount of dramatic, you know, so that I can buy into it and believe it. I think that she is excellent at that. I just adore her books so much. But I know this is in a less popular series. This is in her Underworld series. This is actually the first book in that series. And it is about basically the head of the Russian mafia. And the heroine is, she's in Russia. She's an American. And she's basically a hired hitman. And she is the daughter of an American, I don't know if he was a spy. He worked for like the secret government. So he's definitely one of those who like sees situations and sort of believes that conspiracies are always happening, and he's sort of programmed that into her. So she's a very cautious woman. She's a very highly trained assassin, and she's just powerful as all get out, and I just adore her. She's fantastic. But in this book, she is hired to kill Ivan, the Russian mafia boss. So the beginning scene in this book lives in my head rent-free too, because it's just such a powerful scene. She's in his bedroom with a syringe. She's going to kill him, and he wakes up, and they have like this battle trying to subdue one another, and they're both like simultaneously turned on and trying to kill each other, and it's just one of the hottest, best scenes that I've ever read in my life. But the way that this couple connected in this book was so beautifully powerful for me. Like, this hero is so protective of her, but she's also equally protective of him and very powerful too, so that she can protect him. But the reason this book specifically makes it on this list is because this couple shows up in other books by Sophie, and it is because of that that they make me believe in love, because again, that's a case where we have them spanning years and years and years in later books. We see them show up, and they're still so in love and still fighting for each other and still doing everything you would expect this power couple to do. I love this book so much. I think this couple is fantastic. Y'all need to read it. Okay, this next book is a paranormal romance, and it is Dark Needs at Night's Edge by Kresley Cole. This is part of her Immortals After Dark series. This, to me, is my favorite book in the series because it is not only like have this very action-paced plot with some very steamy times with a great world of paranormal creatures, but this book is deeply, hauntingly romantic. There is a scene in here where the hero, who is a vampire, and the heroine is a ghost, where he believes her to be in mortal peril. And he is calling out for her. Her name is Naomi. He is crying out for her. And I will never forget, I listened to this on audio, by the way, I will never forget the sound of his voice crying, calling, painfully calling for her, because he can't get to her to protect her. And he's so, oh my gosh, it just like kills me. It killed me. It killed me. It's so romantic. The basic plot of this is Conrad is a vampire. They believe that he is rogue and dangerous. So they take him, his brothers, basically, he's a vampire, take him to this haunted mansion that is abandoned, and they chain him up there because they believe that's for his good, that he stays there. But they don't know that this mansion is haunted by a ballerina's ghost, and that's Naomi. And the thing that I absolutely love about this book is that it seems like such an impossible concept. A ghost and a vampire, how are they going to live happily ever after? This is a Kresley Cole book, so how are they going to be, like, together physically if she's a ghost? And it works. It's a thing of beauty. It's so completely, like, soft and sweet, but at the same time sexy and sensual and powerful, like all of Kresley's books are. I can't ever stop thinking about this book. I love this couple so much. If you're looking for a book maybe to try to get into this series, I would definitely recommend this one. I don't think you need to read the whole series to get to this book. But also, this is unlike most of the books in the series in that it is like haunting, achingly romantic. I think Kresley does a great job. I know she does. Like, I love all of her books, but this one is a favorite of mine for that reason, that it feels a bit more romantic and slightly softer than her other books do. It's just perfection. Okay, the next book that I want to talk about is Transcendence by Shea Savage. So This one is a very popular book, and I stayed away from this book for a very, very long time because I just did not know how in the world I was going to get on board with a caveman and a modern day woman romance that goes back in time. Honestly, I just felt like that subject to me seemed like I'm not going to be able to suspend my disbelief. I don't think I'm going to like it that much. Or maybe I'll like it, but I don't think I'll love it. Maybe I won't love the romance, you know? So color me surprised when I read this book. And when I tell you, I was bowled over by how beautiful this romance was. I am not kidding. I sobbed at the end of this book. I friggin' sobbed. This book is so beautiful. We have this caveman who finds this human woman just sort of like, you know, transported from the future. I know it sounds bonkers, right? And he can't communicate with her because he doesn't speak the same language. And so they have this language barrier for most of the book. But the way that he, like, sees her, and in the beginning, he sees her just as, like, oh, this is my mate. I need a mate. I need to have a family. I need, you know, like, that's how he's thinking of her. Very animalistic in that way. But it grows to so much more, and it's all told from his perspective. So you get to see his point of view almost entirely and watch his feelings grow and change for her as they have this relationship through their life, through their entire life. He watches her have their children. He watches her age. It's just so freaking beautiful. It is literally one of the most beautiful, poignant love stories I've ever read in my life. And it is a romance with happily ever after, but you do follow them to the end of their life. It's just powerful. And I was shocked at how much I loved this book. Fantastic, amazing, adored it. Okay, and the last book on my list is from my favorite author. I included this as a bookend from the first book because honestly, I love this author for a reason because she always delivers on that with me. She's so good at writing soulmate level type of love that I just couldn't leave this book off the list. And it is Real by Kennedy Ryan. This is her newest release. This came out last year. I was lucky enough to read an arc of this book. I devoured it. I sobbed. I was feeling so many things. This book is, to me, a completely perfect romance novel. But it's honestly, I feel like it transcends romance novel in that it's all about the romance and their happily ever after. But it's telling such a powerful story about Black creatives in the past and bringing their stories to light. And it's just so freaking beautiful. The basic plot of this is we have our heroine, Neva, who is a young actress. She is an understudy on Broadway. One night, she ends up getting able to play the starring role. She ends up on stage, and the director, the hero, Cannon Holt. I should have been holding these books over here this whole time. I'm sorry, y'all. The director, Cannon Holt, sees her on stage, and he's just transfixed by her. He's transfixed by her beauty, by her performance, by this magic she brings to the stage, and he's in the process of getting ready to cast and film this biopic about Black creatives and a woman who was a Black artist that no one really talks about. He wants to share her story with the world, and he knows that Neva is going to be perfect for that role, so he casts her. So it's a director and his actress, and it's their romance. He is a big grump. Neva is a big sunshine. And their romance is a little slow simmer and build, but it comes to this powerful, beautiful, passionate connection that then, when things are evolved in their relationship, and in Neva's life specifically, she has a chronic illness. She has lupus, and the hero has lost his mother to MS. So there's big chronic illness representation in here, which really means a lot to me to see her suffering and to see Cannon like step up and take care of her and be there for her no matter what. Like that's the thing that I love about all of these books, is that we see usually the hero step up when the heroine is having some big life difficulties that aren't sexy, that aren't romantic, that aren't glamorous. You know, she's losing her hair at one point, and he says something to her like, how could you ever think that I wouldn't find you beautiful with or without hair? And I'm just like, this is the type of love that you dream about and that you hope for. And it is just absolutely beautiful and heartbreaking. I love this book so much. It's It's fantastic. I feel like this is probably Kennedy's, up to this point, I think it's her best work, and I think that she's probably the most proud of this. This is also fantastic in audio if you have a chance to listen to that. But I adore this book. This book is what true love is to me. So, all right, there you have it. Those are the top 8 books that, to me, embody love and soulmates. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have a book that feels like that to you, something that feels like soulmate level love, please leave it in the comments. I would love to read more like that, but I would also love to know what you think. And if you just want to let me know you were here, feel free to leave me a black heart. That would be great. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all in my next video. And be sure to check out Tiffany's channel below.